Okay, the Five of Wands, being the very first card, is actually kind of perfect for this, because the energy here feels restless, like somebody's mind is arguing with itself over you. And I don't mean that in a fortune-telling way. I'm reading this symbolically, psychologically, and this card is literally giving me internal conflict, too many thoughts happening at once, attraction fighting logic, curiosity fighting self-control. And the weird thing is, I immediately keep being drawn back to your face, specifically your eyes first. There's something about the way you look at people, or maybe the way you don't look at them, that seems to create this ridiculous amount of tension. Wait, I'm getting something very specific. It's like this person has caught you staring somewhere else before. You weren't even paying attention to them. You were distracted, thinking, watching something across the room, whatever. And somehow that was worse, because they could look at you without you catching them. And I'm hearing this thought like, why do I keep looking at their mouth? Oh my god, okay. This is exactly what I mean by Five of Wands energy. Their brain is basically going, stop looking, act normal, why are you looking again? And then another part of them is like, I don't care, I want to. There's a physical attraction here, obviously, but what interests me is that it doesn't feel simple. This person seems almost irritated by how much attention their own mind gives you, not irritated with you, with themselves, because they might normally be pretty composed, and then you smile, or you press your lips together while you're listening. Or there's this tiny expression you make before you laugh, and suddenly whatever intelligent thought they were having has left the building. I'm sorry, that's literally how this feels. And the Five of Wands has all these little figures crossing their wands, everything intersecting, everything competing for space. And symbolically, that feels exactly like their thoughts around you. Desire, curiosity, nervousness, restraint, and something else that I don't think they expected, emotion, because I actually think this started with your appearance. They noticed the eyes, they noticed the lips. But now there's something about you they can't reduce to physical attraction anymore. And that is where this starts getting interesting. Because the next thing coming through is that they may have already tried to convince themselves that you're not that serious, and I don't think that worked. Because now I've got the Queen of Wands reversed, and symbolically, that actually makes this even more interesting. Because upright, this is such a visible energy. Confidence, presence. Somebody who walks into a room and knows they're being noticed. Reversed, it feels much more unconscious, like you may not even realise what you're doing, and I think that's part of the problem for this person. They probably tried to tell themselves, okay, they're attractive, obviously. That's it, moving on, except then they actually moved on with their day, and your face came with them. That's the part. Because this doesn't feel like somebody sitting around intentionally trying to fantasize about you every 5 minutes. It's more annoying than that. They'll be doing something completely unrelated and suddenly remember the way your eyes looked during a conversation, or this tiny smile you made, not even a full smile. Just that little thing your mouth did when you were trying not to react to something. And they remember it. Why? That's literally what they're asking themselves. Why did my brain save that? Wait, there's something here about watching you concentrate too. Like, maybe your expression changes when you're focused, your lips press together differently, your eyes narrow slightly, you get quieter, something. And for whatever reason, they noticed. That's what makes this feel less like, oh, I think they're hot, and more like their attention has started collecting details without permission, because attraction is one thing. But remembering somebody's expressions, remembering exactly how they looked when they were listening to you, that's different. And I think that's where they started realizing this wasn't staying in the neat little category they wanted to put it in. Because nothing huge even had to happen. You didn't need some dramatic romantic moment. You could literally just looked at them while they were talking. And that might have been enough. Actually, I think that's becoming a big part of this, because yes, they're attracted to your lips. Yes, there's probably curiosity around kissing you, being physically close to you, all of that. But I don't think that's the thing getting under their skin the most anymore. I think they want your attention. your full attention. They want to know what it would feel like if those eyes they keep noticing weren't looking across the room, weren't distracted, weren't focused on somebody else, but were completely focused on them. And with this Queen of Wands reversed, I keep getting this strange feeling that you might create that effect without deliberately trying to. Which means the thing seducing them the most might actually be something you don't even know you're doing. And now the High Priestess reversed comes out. Okay, that makes so much sense here, because symbolically this is all about not being able to read something clearly. Like this person genuinely cannot figure out whether you know what you're doing to them. That's the problem. They'll catch you looking at them for maybe 1 second longer than expected and think, oh, they know. And then you look away. Completely normal, like nothing happened. And suddenly they're going, wait, no, maybe that wasn't anything. Do you see how ridiculous this becomes? Because I think you have these tiny behaviours that could look incredibly seductive from the outside when you're probably just existing. You narrow your eyes when you're thinking. You glance down before you answer something. Maybe you press your lips together for half a second because you're choosing your words. Or you look directly at them, and then casually turn your attention somewhere else. Meanwhile, this person has forgotten what they were talking about. I'm serious, and the High Priestess reversed feels perfect psychologically because there's this constant question interpretation. Did they mean that? Was that flirting? Did they just look at my mouth? And then 5 seconds later, no, stop. You're imagining things. That is literally the 5 of Wands again. Desire fighting self-control. But now it's perception fighting doubt too. And honestly, I think the uncertainty is making you more attractive to them. Because if you were obviously trying to seduce them, they could understand it. They could respond to it. There would be rules. But this? They don't know where they stand. Wait. There's another layer. Here. I don't think they're satisfied just watching you anymore. They're studying the difference between the way you look at them and the way you look at everyone else. Because they want to know what your face does when you actually want somebody. What happens to your eyes? Do they soften? Do you hold eye contact longer? Does your smile change? Do you look at their lips too? And that question is becoming way more personal than they probably want to admit. Because once you start wondering whether somebody looks at another person differently than they look at you, that's not just attraction anymore, that's comparison. And I'm getting this feeling that they may have already had one moment where they watched somebody else get your attention, and they did not like how much they cared. And now Justice comes out. Okay, that changes the feeling a little, because Justice is such a measuring card, comparing, watching, trying to figure out what something means based on the evidence in front of you. And symbolically, I think that's exactly what this person has started doing with your attention. They notice who makes you laugh, who gets that longer look, who you seem more relaxed around, who gets the version of your smile that looks a little warmer. And I don't think they want to be tracking any of this. That's what makes it interesting. Because their mind will notice something and then immediately argue with itself. Like, why did you care that they leaned closer to that person? Why are you even watching this? This is none of your business. And then 2 minutes later, they're looking again. Oh my God. And Justice is making me feel like comparison has quietly entered the picture, not in some dramatic, who is my competition kind of way. More subtle than that. They see somebody around you and suddenly they're noticing things they normally wouldn't care about. How confident that person seems, how comfortable they are with you, whether they've known you longer, whether they can make you laugh easily, maybe even how they look. And somewhere underneath all of that is this uncomfortable little question. Do they have something I don't? Because imagine this person already being hyper-aware of your eyes. Then they watch you look at somebody else, and maybe your expression changes just slightly. You smile, your mouth opens like you're about to laugh, you hold eye contact. You lean in because you're listening, completely normal interaction. But now this person is trying to weigh every tiny detail, like it's evidence. And obviously, none of that proves anything. That's not what I'm saying. Psychologically, though, the fact that they're emotionally reacting to where your attention goes is important, because remember, this was supposed to be not that serious. Just physical, just attraction. Okay, then why does it matter who gets your smile? Why does it matter who you look at? Why does it bother them when somebody else seems to have easy access to your attention? Wait, I think I just got it. They don't only want to be attracted to you. They want something back. Reciprocity. They want some tiny piece of evidence that all this ridiculous mental chaos isn't completely one-sided, and that makes the question underneath everything much more vulnerable. Because now when you look at them, I think part of their mind is asking, do they feel any of this when they look at me? And with the 5 of Cups coming out now, yeah, this is where that question starts getting dangerous for them. Not dangerous in some huge dramatic way, I mean emotionally. Because once somebody starts hoping the attraction might be mutual, suddenly every little memory gets reopened. That one look you gave them, that time you stood a little closer than you technically needed to, the way you smiled before you walked away. Maybe there was a pause at the end of a conversation where neither of you immediately moved, and now their brain is going back through all of it like, wait, was that something? And the 5 of Cups is interesting here because symbolically, there's this fixation on what you don't know, what you might have missed, what you wish had happened differently. So I can absolutely see this person replaying one specific moment and thinking they should have done something, held the eye contact, said one more thing, stayed another minute, maybe you looked at their mouth. Or maybe they desperately wanted you to be looking at their mouth, so now they're not even sure anymore. That's how blurry this gets. Because when you want reciprocity badly enough, neutral moments start feeling charged. And then there's the physical part. But again, it doesn't feel graphic, it feels like anticipation, like wondering what your hand would feel like against theirs. What would happen if you hugged them and neither of you pulled away at the normal time? That tiny second where a hug has technically ended. But nobody moved yet. Oh, okay, that feels very specific. Because I think the almost is what's driving them crazy, not necessarily the kiss, the second before it. That quiet moment where both people would know what could happen next. And here's what's funny. They probably think they want proof that you feel the same, because then they could finally relax. I don't think they would relax. At all, I think they'd get more nervous. Because fantasy is easy. Fantasy doesn't require you to risk anything. But if you suddenly looked at them in a way that made it obvious, if your eyes dropped to their lips and they knew they didn't imagine it, now they have a problem, because now something could actually happen. And with this 5 of Cups, I keep feeling like there may have already been one moment where the energy shifted just enough for both of you to notice. Nothing huge, just too much eye contact, too much awareness, standing too close. A goodbye that felt strangely unfinished. Something small, but real enough that afterward this person may have done something unexpected. They pulled back, and now the Magician comes out. Okay. That's actually really interesting after the 5 of Cups, because the Magician symbolically is about awareness, intent, realizing you can do something, and I think that may be exactly why they pulled back. Before that moment, they could tell themselves this attraction was happening privately, in their head. They could look at you when you weren't paying attention. They could imagine things. They could overanalyze your smile and then go home and convince themselves they were being ridiculous. But if there was one moment where you looked back, really looked back, now they have information they didn't have before, and suddenly they're aware of themselves, their face, their voice, where they're standing, whether they're looking at your mouth too much, everything. So they may become weirdly controlled around you afterward, like almost too normal. They look away faster. They talk to everyone else in the room. They suddenly have 17 extremely important things to do. I'm sorry, but that's how this feels. Or maybe they start joking more because silence feels dangerous now. Because silence gives them too much time to notice how close you are. And the Magician is making me think composure becomes almost like a performance. See? I'm fine, completely normal. Meanwhile, they just noticed you walk into the room without even looking directly at the door. Okay, wait. There's another possibility. Maybe the moment wasn't eye contact. Maybe it was a conversation that got unexpectedly personal. You said something real. They answered honestly. And for a second, it stopped feeling like flirting or attraction and started feeling like actual connection. Or maybe your hand touched theirs. Accidentally. Nothing dramatic. But suddenly both of you became very aware that you have bodies. And now we're back to that 5 of Wands problem again. Because this person can control a thought, they can redirect attention, they can tell themselves not to stare. But physical proximity? That seems harder. Because if you're standing close enough, they can't intellectually explain away everything they're feeling. Your voice is right there. Your eyes are right there. Your mouth is right there. And now the magician energy becomes almost ironic. They're trying so hard to control themselves. But the closer you physically get, the less convincing that control seems to become. And I think that is where their restraint starts slipping. And now we've got the 10 of Swords. Okay, that looks intense, but symbolically, I don't think this is saying something terrible is happening. I think it's showing why the attraction feels so vulnerable. Because when you get physically close to this person, their awareness seems to narrow down completely. Like suddenly, they notice everything. Your voice sounds different because you're closer. They notice where your hands are. They notice the expression on your face. They notice whether you're leaning toward them or away from them, and if there's even the possibility of touching you. Their brain is basically useless. I'm sorry, but this doesn't even need to be some huge romantic moment. You could hand them something, and your fingers brush for half a second. That's enough. Or you're sitting beside them and your shoulder touches theirs. Maybe you laugh and put your hand on their arm without thinking. Completely casual. And meanwhile, they're trying to continue the conversation like their entire nervous system didn't just notice it. That's what I mean. Because I don't think the craving here is only, I want to touch them. It's more specific. They want to know if they're allowed to. Not permission in some formal way. I mean that little unspoken confirmation that closeness is welcome. That if their hand stayed near yours, you wouldn't move away. That if they stepped slightly closer, your body wouldn't immediately create distance. Wait, that's actually important. Because the eyes and the lips and the touch keep coming up together. And I don't think those are separate things anymore. They're imagining, touching you and then looking at your face to see what happens. Would your eyes change? Would you get quieter? Would you look down at their mouth? Would you smile? That's what they're really trying to know. How you would respond. And the 10 of Swords makes sense here psychologically, because once they get an answer to that, something ends. The pretending ends. The whole this is just physical, I can control this, it doesn't matter story, done. Because mutual touch would make it real in a way staring never could. And I think that's where the deeper fear enters. Because wanting somebody this much is one thing. Realizing they could actually affect you emotionally. That's different, and suddenly I'm getting the feeling that underneath all this attraction, there may be a thought they haven't wanted to admit. What if they could hurt me? And now the moon comes out. Okay, yeah, that actually explains the fear. Because symbolically, the moon is uncertainty, not knowing exactly what something means. Feeling something strongly without having enough information to feel safe about it. And I think that's where this person is now. They want your attention, but if you give them too much attention, now they have to wonder what it means. They want you closer. But if you actually get closer now, there's something to lose. They want proof that you're attracted to them. But if they get that proof, then what? That's the part they probably don't like thinking about. Because fantasy lets them stay in control. They can imagine your lips, imagine touching your hand, replay your eyes looking at them. And none of that requires an answer. But another real person? You can't control that. You could want them back, or you could not. And I think that uncertainty is exposing something much softer underneath all this attraction. Wait, because I'm getting tenderness now. That's different. Like they may remember little things you tell them that have absolutely nothing to do with how you look. Something you mentioned you were worried about. Something you like. Something that annoyed you that day. Maybe they notice when you seem quieter than usual. Or they see your expression change and immediately wonder, are they okay? And that is exactly what I meant earlier when I said emotion entered this. Because somebody can think your eyes are beautiful without caring whether those eyes look tired. They can be attracted to your mouth without remembering something you said 3 days ago. This is starting to involve you, not just your face. And honestly, that might scare them more than the physical attraction ever did. Because now being rejected wouldn't just bruise their ego, it would actually affect them. So the moon makes this restraint feel less like lack of interest, and more like, I don't know what I'm walking into here. And maybe they're wondering whether you even realise any of this. Maybe you think they're perfectly calm. Maybe you think they barely notice you. Maybe you've even interpreted their restraint as indifference. But here's the irony. The harder somebody tries to look unaffected, the more strange little contradictions start showing up. And I think this person may be giving themselves away far more than they realise. And now death comes out. Okay, that is actually perfect here. Not literally, obviously. Symbolically, this is transformation, something reaching a point where the old way of handling it just doesn't work anymore. And I think that's what's happening with this person's attempt to act unaffected. Because once you start noticing the contradictions, they're kind of everywhere. They might barely look at you when you're directly in front of them. And then somehow watch you from across the room when they think you won't notice. One day they're talking to you like they could stay there for hours. The next day, 2-word answers. Suddenly very composed, very busy, very normal. Sure. And then you mention something you told them weeks ago and they remember it immediately. Okay, so you weren't paying attention? Interesting. Or maybe they tease you about something completely stupid, but the second your mood actually changes, they notice. They get quieter. They listen. Their whole energy shifts. And again, none of these things by themselves prove somebody is attracted to you. That's not what I'm saying. It's the contradiction that interests me. Because we started with the 5 of Wands. Everything fighting everything. Look at them. Don't look. Get closer. Back up. Imagine touching them. Absolutely do not make it obvious that you want to touch them. And now death feels like that entire strategy is reaching its limit. Because I think they've realised something. Your appearance got their attention. Your eyes. Your lips. The way your face changes when you laugh. Obviously. But that isn't why this has stayed in their head. Wait. I think the part they can't shake is that they still cannot completely figure you out. They can look at your eyes all they want, but they don't actually know what's happening behind them. They don't know what you feel. They don't know who you want. They don't know whether that tiny smile meant something or whether you forgot about it 5 seconds later. And that combination, physical attraction plus emotional uncertainty, that is destroying their ability to put you into some simple category, because they don't only want to look at you anymore. They want access, not in some possessive way. They want to know you. They want to know what makes your eyes soften, what makes you genuinely laugh, what makes you move closer instead of away. And suddenly all this staring, jealousy, restraint, imagining your touch, it starts pointing toward one question. Because if this person could stop arguing with themselves for literally 1 minute, what do they actually want from you? And now we've got the 9 of Swords reversed. Okay, that actually answers the question. Because symbolically, this feels like wanting relief from all the mental noise, all the analysing. All the did that mean something? Did I imagine that? Should I say something? Should I leave it alone stuff? And yes, obviously, there's still physical desire here. They want to be close to you. They want to know what your face looks like when there's only a few inches between you. They want to know what happens if the touch isn't accidental anymore, if their hand touches yours because they meant to, if you stay there, if you look at them afterward. And, yeah, I still think the lips are part of it. Very much. But what they actually seem to crave underneath that is an answer. Relief. They want one moment they don't have to replay afterward like security footage. I'm serious. They want eye contact that feels deliberate enough that they don't have to ask themselves what it meant. They want closeness that doesn't immediately turn into another internal argument. They want to know what happens if you choose them back. That's the difference, because up until now so much of this has been them observing you. Your eyes, your mouth, your expressions, where your attention goes. But what they really want is for you to stop being somebody they privately study from a safe distance and become somebody who moves toward them too. And I think that's why your attraction feels so strong in this reading. It's not just that you're physically appealing, it's that your attention feels valuable. You seem like somebody whose focus has to be genuinely earned. Your eyes can be warm without necessarily explaining everything. Your smile can feel intimate without automatically belonging to anyone, and that keeps them wondering. Which brings us all the way back to that 5 of Wands. Because those competing thoughts were never only desire versus self-control. It was desire versus vulnerability, fantasy versus reality, control versus actually caring what happens next. And the 9 of Swords reversed feels like this person wanting to finally stop fighting themselves over it. Now, again, symbolically, psychologically. This isn't me claiming access to somebody's private mind or promising what another person feels, but as a pattern, this is somebody craving clarity almost as much as they crave closeness. Because maybe the fantasy they keep returning to isn't complicated at all. You look at them, really look at them. Their eyes drop to your lips, your hand finds theirs. And for once, neither person has to wonder what it meant.